Hello, everybody. So we will go ahead and get started. It's at 4 o'clock now, and we'll try to keep this to about 20, 25 minutes or so. If you've been on these before, that promise is probably not going to be true because I can get a little long-winded. I'm thrilled to have a buddy of mine, Tim Reitman, on with us today. So what we're going to do is Tim and I are just going to go back and forth on some questions that we regarding protecting your information. A little bit on cybersecurity, a little bit of some other things too. But Tim Reitman is lead with MFS Investment Management. If you've been a client of mine, I have MFS has been a financial management company, investment management company I've used for my whole career. I really appreciate the good work they do, and we'll share some at the end of this as well that we can send out to you too that MFS has put together. Tim, anything you want to share with the group about yourself or the firm?
For sure. Yeah, great to meet you all. Been working with Chris for a long time here. I work with a partner, Greg Davis, who's down in Roswell, Georgia. I'm up here in Boston, but been trusted partners over at Highland Trust for a long time and love working with Chris and the team and great to meet you all and hopefully can take a couple, good benefits from this call today. Appreciate
Yeah,
you having us,
yeah,
Chris.
sure. And that's what we want to do. We just want to give everybody some talking points. On every educational Zoom I do monthly, it's about trying to just feed some information to them so that people feel comfortable to make calls to, I mean, not just us, but anybody, just to learn a little bit more. It's not, I don't, This is not a fun subject at all. We've
Definitely
had
not.
some fun ones. I guess if you like tax, you would have heard that one last month, which may not be fun either. But this is not fun one to talk about. It's just real. It's something we have to deal with on a daily basis. And we'll go back and forth on some of this. Before we chime in or we get a little bit deeper, Tim,
Yep.
just a little housekeeping FYI for everybody. Chat room is closed. So you can't ask questions on chat. If you have any follow-up, anything, just email me. That's my email address. Most of you probably have that anyway. Just shoot me an email or anybody on my team, whoever you are connected with at Highland Trust, you can email them as well, and we'll get some more information out to you also. So chat rooms closed, and also as well as open questions during verbal questions during the presentation. But happy to send some more information as we go along. Now, so like I said, it's not the best subject in the world. It's just what we deal with on a regular basis. I mean, every time I was telling Tim before everybody jumped on this that we see it in the news every day. I mean, Tim's in Boston. I'm obviously most of us are probably in Georgia. Turn on the Atlanta news every time I go home at 6:30, and they have some report of some poor person in a part of Georgia that got scammed out of money or something, identity stolen or something like that. So it's a huge problem. We're doing the best we possibly can to share information like this to prevent it with our clients and our friends and our family, but I mean, you look at Tim last year, the FBI puts out a report in case people don't know this, and that's a resource center. We can send some
Well,
information
as
to.
the time
But
developed for
FBI puts out a report every
the
year as far as
M19,
cases and amounts of money that have been taken
68,
or
I think.
stolen. And as of 2024, it was around 17 billion. So just think about that. And it's
Mm.
no telling what 2025 is going to be is going to come in at. But last year, it's almost 17 billion dollars. 5 billion of that was seniors, so our senior
Yep.
citizens. So as you're thinking about this, talking to your parents, your grandparents, your friends and family who are at those ages, that maybe we can help them a little bit more. So that's something that again we'll get into this a little bit today. Does that sound good, Tim?
100%. Yeah, 100%, Chris. Agree. And wanted just to give this caveat to y'all before we get started. Chris is going to send around a brochure that we have with some of the things we talked about today, as well as some helpful links. So keep an eye out for that.
MT
It
Bill is my
really is just an
name.
intimidating subject, and
Yes.
most people tend to, ignore it. And I kind of fall into that boat as well. Um, 90% of Americans are interested in increasing their protection of their data, but 50% just really don't know where to start. So, like I mentioned, I'm just here to give you a couple tips and tricks and hopefully protect yourself kind of going forward. So I'll turn it back to you there, Chris.
Yeah, perfect. So we'll start. Like I said, we're just going to go through some of these are going to be obvious answers to you all. So just bear with me until we get some meat and potatoes of this. So, uh, what types of information are we trying to protect? Tim, you want to share into that? I've got comments too.
For sure, yeah. I'll start off there, Chris. It's really kind of threefold. The big three is personal information. These are things like your names, your addresses, your driver's license, for example, social security numbers, financial details, health records. Just thinking to my parents, for example, they're just about 60 years old, and my dad carries everything in his wallet, and my mom carries everything in her purse. Just think if that gets stolen, or hijacked or anything like that, they could have their full identity stolen. So you want to make sure you have those, in a safe spot, and hopefully not all in one place at one time. The second prong to that is financial information. This kind of goes without saying. This is your bank accounts, your routing numbers, your credit cards. Again, you want to make sure you have some protection there when you're carrying those around in your wallet, depending on where you live. And then the third thing, I'm sure some of you may be business owners, small business owners, things such as intellectual property, contracts, legal documents. You want to make sure those are in a safe spot in your office with some record keeping, whether it's CCTV, or a key or things of that nature. So those are kind of the three types of information you want to make sure you're protecting.
Yeah, and I'll even throw another one in, Tim, too, just
Yep.
general family information. So, that's we'll talk about that in a second too, but it's knowing who your grandkids are, knowing about your family dynamics, not just your own personal, information like where you live, but where they live, and we'll get into that a little bit when we talk about social media in a second, Tim.
Yep.
And it's
Yeah.
almost really the answer to everything. We're really trying to get to the point where any information that can be used somehow against us, and
Yep.
unfortunately, that's becoming more and more prevalent. And AI is not helping with that in this area too. But it's our information's out there, and we'll talk
Mhm.
about that now. It's there. So it's how are we going to what methods do we need to put in place to really protect almost everything? So with that information, what risk or threats are there? What would you say?
There's unfortunately a lot of them, Chris. And, I'll start off by saying things like malware, which is just software that can steal your data. Those can come from, malicious links or text messages or, phone calls, things of that nature. Ransomware is another thing that's very similar, same vein as malware, but, that's a person or a group looking for a ransom to be paid to get your data back, which can be a very slippery slope there. Phishing is the most common. Chris and I were talking about this before this call started, that's a very common threat out there at the moment. I've experienced this one personally. I'm sure some of you may have as well as the Easy Pass text scam that's been going around a lot recently. That's
Yep.
a very common phishing mechanism there. At my company, MFS, we welcomed a new CEO earlier this year, Ted Maloney. And we had a phishing scam go around recently of someone impersonating Ted, texting employees on their personal phone, which is something that just wouldn't happen in a business sense and of that nature. So you got to keep an eye out for that for people in your life that may be trying to be impersonated. Again, for the small business owners out there, data breaches are very common. Of emails or phone numbers getting leaked out to the general public tend to be the most common there. Shifting over to other threats is direct threats. Those come from scam phone calls or letters in the mail, things of that nature, trying to get your physical information. And the other one is more digital, which is those phishing kind of text messages, emails that you tend to get, and take more skill and kind of more effort to put forward. So those are just a couple of them, Chris,
No, that's great. I mean, you hit on a lot of the ones that we see on the news every day, or maybe
for sure.
and unfortunately, we get all the time. I had a text yesterday. So it seems like every week or so, there's a personal text or email or something that goes around with somebody trying to dig information from you. We'll talk
Totally.
how to cover that in a minute too. But just here's some other ones, Tim, that I talk to friends and family
Yeah.
particularly about, and clients. A lot of my clients are friends. So it's not just financial stolen identity scam stuff. It's a risk is in just a risk and threat is embarrassment to you. Just how does it make you feel? I mean, we had a client that had one that got phished or scammed, and it caused the embarrassment of him, the anxiety, the I don't want to talk to anybody, his time and energy having to try to deal with it with the local authorities, as well as apologizing to family about what happened. And then that could tie into relationships being some charred at times with these types of things. So while it's definitely, financial and those types of things too, it's also the emotional side of it. And I think that's what I spend a lot of time talking like friends and family again is trying as we talk to our parents, it's not just about protecting their dollars, it's about protecting their emotional stability. Okay, because I think that's very important in these days. So, who has access to this information? I think we could talk probably, Tim, for a long time about everything, everybody. So, give us some of the top things that you see there.
Well, like Chris mentioned, social media tends to be the biggest one there. People, are constantly online posting things about their family, their personal lives, their businesses, possibly. And that presents a unique opportunity for hackers and scammers to gain access to your personal information. So I think this hopefully goes without saying, don't post, common password kind of techniques like your mother's maiden name or your first car, first concert, things of that nature. That makes it really easy. Um, for hackers to get into your information. If you're posting about, I know Chris is a big Steelers fan. If you post about the Steelers a lot, that may lead them to think that they're
It's
your.
not my password, I promise
We'll see about that. But yeah, that tends to
you.
go into some people's passwords. So be cognizant of that. And just you want to make sure you're just using some common sense when being online and sharing some personal information. You don't want these folks
Yeah, and
to
mean,
be able to gain access to your stuff. So
even if
I think
we
that's
do
the
our
biggest one.
best, even if we do our best individually to protect our information is everywhere. I said that a while ago. It really, I mean, you look at places like, I mean, from financial institutions, marketing firms, when you sign up to buy something at Kohl's and they want you to apply for the discount, and send you texts and emails all the time. That's your information out there that can get around social media, computer hard drives. I mean, law firms, CPA firms, insurance companies, your medical practices that you go to, from dentists, orthodontists to doctors.
Yeah,
So a lot of it, Tim, is too just making sure that the people that you're doing business with also they have your interest. I know they have your interest at heart per se, but they've put measures in place to make sure your information is protected. Is that
for
fair?
sure. Yep, you want to work with reputable businesses, and certainly people as well. And like Chris mentioned, unfortunately, your information is going to be almost everywhere. It's just kind of the nature of the business right now. But hopefully, we'll transition into giving some, preventative measures, to order to protect yourself.
I put a star by one. I'll throw out in a second on another question too, but trash collectors. Keep in mind trash collectors and have your information if you don't take proper measures. Just
Yep,
understand. Yeah.
shredders are great.
So I've got a laundry list on this one. We're going to spend a few minutes here. So what can
Yeah, this is
families do? You've mentioned a few things already, Tim. I'm going
yep,
to check off on my list as you go through yours so we're not duplicating each other, but I've
sure.
got a
Yep,
lot. So go ahead.
sounds good. Well, I'll start off with a question for you here, Chris. How long do you think it would take a hacker to break a password that has 7 characters, upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols, so like a question mark or an exclamation point? How long do you think that would take?
Less than 5 seconds.
31 seconds, so a little
Okay.
bit longer, but nonetheless.
Well, I watch too many CIA type
Fair
movies.
enough.
Maybe some of
Fair
that's
enough.
fake. But
But
okay.
31 seconds, that's a pretty strong password, at least in my book. But some of our experts say that you want to have a minimum of 12 characters, ideally 14. The longer the password, the more variety tends to be the better there. So, I fall into this trap, unfortunately, as well. Try not to use the same password, across different accounts. I obviously have fallen into that trap of just for ease of use, but try not to do that. Um,
Let me give you one there too. Sorry to interrupt on that.
please, yeah,
This is on my list. People get really, and this happens in my practice, and the number when Tim said he's 100% right. Don't use the same password across multiple things. You know how many, I can't even tell you, Tim, how many passwords I really have. I mean,
yeah,
I really, I don't think I mean, it's unbelievable if I really counted how scary. I mean, I have, but they're all, for the most part, are just a little bit different. But I do and don't put that on a piece of paper somewhere under your keyboard or in your wallet or your purse. There's an app called Password Keeper. I don't know, Tim, you know that one, and other people know that too.
yep, yep.
So
Password
I use
keeper,
that
dash
app
lane.
religiously. It holds all my passwords. It'll create passwords now too if you want to help you do that. But it's a place that I can store. And then when I do when you change your passwords every 3 months or so, some things make you do that. You can at least update it and keep them in a safe, secure location. Is that
Yep,
fair?
100%. And for the Apple product users out there, so I have my iPhone right here, and if you just go to the home page and go to the passwords app, it'll give you a security tab in terms of I have 74 passwords that have been compromised, so not very good there, but it gives you a list of all your accounts that have compromised passwords, reused passwords, things that have been exposed in the data leak. So if anyone has an iPhone or an iPad out there, I'd really strongly suggest taking a look at that.
Good, thank you.
And like Chris mentioned, yeah, the password keeper, Dashlane is another one. LastPass is another password manager. These are all encrypted and safe to use, and only require one password to access a bunch of yours. So if you're not an Apple user, that could be another option for you.
Okay, I got a
But
bunch. I'll
yeah,
keep.
why don't you go and I'll give you some more.
All right. All right. So, uh, email, text, we kind of hit on this a little bit, guys, but email, text, phone call. So, whatever you get from an unknown, not if it's a gut check, not sure, you're right. Okay, you're right. I mean, and so do just Tim mentioned that here it was like the Peach State the Peach Pass that came through. We get them all the time from either IRS, Sheriff's Department, something. They're 99.9% fake anyway. Just never ever apply. And with that, is have a family member, a close friend, a professional that you trust. I've had a couple clients do this with me that if they ever wonder, they'll just send it to us or to their family and friends just to double check to say, what do y'all think? Should I? Should I? And have somebody check that. Please tell your seniors in your family that. Make sure that they have and it happens to all of us regardless of age. I do not want to discount that at all. But please make sure that your parents and grandparents, those in their senior years, have that, that they know to talk to you first before they do a single thing. Okay. So that's a big one. You'll probably hit social media again. I think you hit this pretty well too, Tim. And I'm guilty of this. So just don't overshare. Keep your friend group small too. I know people who have 3 or 4 thousand quote unquote social media friends. You know those people, Tim.
Yep,
I keep my friend group on my Facebook, particularly to my friends. I mean, I pretty much know more about them than just their name and where they're from. Okay. So make sure you have I keep smaller friend groups, verify their friends, and don't overshare. I do when I go on vacation. Some of you may have seen it. I send pictures when I'm gone. That's not the best thing in the world to do. I will be told that 1,000 times over, but I tend to do it. So that's another thing. I'm gonna
for
go through
sure.
one or two more here.
Yeah, please go for it.
Um, Credit score. Freeze your
Yep,
credit. If you're not using you may get scams for people wanting to use your credit. So if you're not taking out loans, have liabilities going to, you can freeze your credit. I would tell everybody that doesn't, in particular for our seniors, I advise that for every senior client I have, because more than likely in their retirement years, they're not borrowing money. Freeze your credit. That way nobody can take it from you. Another app or system to use is LifeLock. Tim, you know this one, I know. So
100%. Yep.
LifeLock will track your credit score. Everybody needs to track their credit score anyway. It will give you alerts if there's any fishy activity on any of your bank accounts or any accounts that you have. And you can also between the three services on LifeLock that score credit, you can freeze your credit. So
Yep.
and it's easy to turn back on. So any bankers that are on this call should be able to tell you that too. One more I'll say going with family, have a code word, have a phrase or a keyword that my kids have this, my wife has this. So something, if we're wondering if that's my son calling us, we'll ask him a question that has a keyword or phrase answer so we know it's him. So when you see those scams about my granddaughter call, she's in trouble and somewhere in the country she needs $1,000. If you had a keyword with her that nobody's going to know that. That's not written down anywhere. It could be a family story of something in the past. That's a great suggestion with your family to make sure you got that in place. What
For
else you
sure.
got, Tim? Anything else on this one?
That's a great point. Yeah, that's unfortunately been targeted towards seniors as like a granddaughter or grandson, calling saying they've been arrested and need to,
Hmm.
have bail money. Hopefully that's obviously not the case to begin with, but if it is the case, make sure you have some checks and balances there, in order to make sure you can reconcile that story. Um, Going back to the financial kind of credit report thing, annualcreditreport.com is a great
Yep.
resource. They review and monitor your financial statements to see if there's anything, kind of fishy going on under the hood there. So keep an eye out on that. Um, Use for social media the multi-factor authentication. And what that really does is just requires another piece of information, whether it's a phone number or an email address, in order to give you an extra layer of security that'll give you a passcode to gain access to your information. That helps drastically. A lot of websites and social media outlets have that available, so please consider using that. And then in the same vein, the social media, consider just going private. If you have an Instagram, go private. If you have a Facebook, maybe go private just to limit who can see your information. And like Chris mentioned, just be cognizant about what information you're posting on there. Um, just in case you have some watchful eyes looking at you that you don't want to see. Um, and then back to what Chris initially said about some of the unwanted text that we've been seeing via phishing. One website that's really helpful, and again, we'll share this to you afterwards so you can hopefully use it, is ctia.org. And those do a great job of blocking those unwanted texts to your phone. So,
Yeah, that's good. I
um,
haven't done that one yet. I did find out about that one not that long ago, so I'm glad you said that. I'm
yep.
looking to that.
And
That's
then again, just update, software, keep your devices, whether it's your phone, iPad, computer, things of that nature. Just make sure they're updated because a lot of the Apples and, Googles and these tech companies, fix bugs and update
yeah.
those regularly. So make sure you're doing that.
I was going to say that because that's a lot of people don't update their apps. Why have I got to update an app? Usually, it's a lot of times it's security. It's nothing more than fixing a bug.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
would 100% do that. And two other quick ones. Anyone with young children or younger children, let's say they're gaming children, don't give them access to stuff that they can put on these online games, please. I mean, I have friends, and my kids are a little bit older now, but when my kids were that age, I have friends that they have their credit kids have their credit cards, they're buying things on these gaming systems.
Yep.
That has been hit so many times, I can't even tell you of how much scams have come off of kids gaming with your credit cards. So,
100%. There's a
yeah,
funny story that
oh,
someone got susceptible to a with a child purchasing $75,000 worth of jelly beans
yeah,
on
I saw that one.
Amazon.
Yeah, I saw that
Um,
one.
which is, silly, but $75,000 is a lot of money to anyone. So you don't want to find yourself in those shoes as well.
And Amazon wouldn't take it back.
Nope.
Nope, they made that they would not refund that purchase. I remember that. Oh,
Yeah.
and last thing for me, report it. So if you have an issue, this is kind of community helping each other. So do not feel embarrassed enough that you cannot report it to local authorities, to even FBI online sites, somewhere so people know what's going on, so that the word gets out to protect your friends and family from being guilt of get sucked into the same thing, Tim.
Yep.
I tell folks all the time, reporting is one of the biggest things. It didn't help you maybe in that case per se if you actually were scammed, but if you were, let people know so it doesn't happen to somebody else maybe. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So next question, and this will be our last question, and we'll
Okay.
spend a minute here too. What physical security measures, not, we went through some of the things to do, like, Facebook and things like that, but what physical security measures do people need to maybe consider and do to help them?
Yeah, well, certainly consider having a safe or a lockbox in your home or business that has important documents, birth certificates, social security cards, um, maybe even a copy of a credit card, things of that nature. You want to make sure you have those locked away and only you and, very close family members, have access to the key or to the code. So consider doing that, have that in a safe place. Don't have it out in the open, in a living room in case someone unfortunately, would break into your home and that could, present a problem as well. Um, not necessarily a physical measure, but something that you want to do in case that you think you may be compromised is run a security scan on your devices. And a reputable company is one called Norton, which can help you there if you think you've been compromised there. So feel free to lean on them. But in terms of physical security measures, just make sure you have important documents, not laying out in the open, whether it's on your desk at work, or your home office or your kitchen counter, even if you have guests over. You never know who's going to be, snooping around or taking photos of things that you don't want seen.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree. And this is some of the this may not be it's I look at physical like you can kind of touch it and do it, and some of the other things
Mhm.
is like are like that too. Um, Public Wi-Fi, careful.
Yep,
Be very careful using public unsecured Wi-Fi. Now, if you go to a hotel and they have a secured Wi-Fi within that building, okay. But if you're out in the community, Athens has public Wi-Fi. I'm very scared of that. I would not
for
do a
sure.
whole lot on that. I promise you. And
Airports are common for that.
yeah, airports.
Yeah, one thing I'd suggest is using a VPN, which stands for Virtual Private Network. And what that does, it just essentially makes an encrypted tunnel between yourself and a server. Um, and a couple options there are NordVPN or Norton Secure. Again, that Norton
Okay,
company is
good.
great. So,
Perfect. Home Wi-Fi. Put a put a password on your home Wi-Fi. People will canvass neighborhoods, Tim, to try to access your home Wi-Fi.
yep,
They can malware into your computer system, and there you go. There,
yep,
and we're at square one of issues right there.
yep,
Something physical, and this kind of goes in a little. The next couple of things go into the trash collector I mentioned a second ago. Please avoid physical mail at all possible. And we've said that way before we ever got into the business of talking about these kind of issues, Tim. We've said this for 20 years. If you can,
100%.
I have clients, some of you maybe clients asking, can you send me statements? You hear me say I'm a little nervous every single time I send a
Yep,
statement. Can I drop it? Can I deliver it to you? So PO box if you have to with mail, but I don't like mail sitting in a post office box. Obviously, that's the easiest place to steal information. I also
yep,
don't like paying bills through the mail. So, but if you have to, and I have to every once in a while for some bills that we pay, write a check. And this may sound a little crazy. Use a gel pen. A gel pen can't be washed. So if you're worried about checks being stolen and checks being washed, for your checking accounts, gel pens are big for that. And also
yep,
with checking accounts, don't keep your checking account is your most accessible account of all the accounts that you have. It's the most easily assessed to take money from by somebody who wants to get it from you. Keep the least amount of money there. I mean, to put into something, whether it's money markets that don't have check writing capability, or whether it's CDs that you can't just people can't get access to, or something else that because you'll hear me say if you're a client that, once you tell me you have a huge amount of money in your checking account, you see the look on my face and we start talking about, can you just put it somewhere else that's not that accessible? So always been a big one for us as well. Teach kids. We kind of talked about that with the gaming. Make sure your kids understand what to tell people, what to say to people when they ask them questions out in public, because you never know. I don't want one thing I always talk about. I hate feeling like we live in fear, and I don't want this to seem, Tim, like we're dooming and glooming everything. Some of this is common sense. We know that, and there's some
yep,
things you don't know, common sense wise, that we can give you some more information on. We will in a second, but there are people out there trying to hurt us, either financially, emotionally, or whatever that is. We just have to make sure we're protecting ourselves and protecting our not just our families, but each other with
mhm,
sharing information like this. And like I said again, as far as reporting, if there's ever an incident, and paper laying around, Tim mentioned that, keep it locked up. We did if you want to go back to my Zoom on YouTube channel that talked about organization at the beginning of the year, I talked about how long you should keep your bills for, your tax returns for, those types of things on paper or somewhere stored in files. Burn or shred everything that doesn't need to
yep,
be kept. I mean, don't just throw it in the trash. Make sure it's shredded, burned, or there are plenty of services around that offer free. Banks do, post office sometimes does. We've done it in our practice before, offer free shred days to families. So take advantage of those when you get them in your communities, because I just don't have things around where people can get their hands on.
yep.
Okay. Well, with that, we're going to wrap this up, Tim. I really do hope that everybody got good information from it. Tim, MFS has a piece called Protecting Your Data,
Yes, sir.
Aware and Prepared. Okay, so I have this in my hand right now. It gives some of the things in here that Tim referenced when he was talking about different sites to go to and things that you can look and that you can pull up or maybe protect yourselves with. Tim, you want to explain that a little bit more, maybe?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So this is a great brochure that talked about a few of the things that we discussed today about, common threats and how they may relate to different generations and who they may be targeting with different things, whether it's online or, kind of, physical kind of pieces of information that they're trying to target you. There's also some services in their links and what they can do to you in order to protect your data and make sure you're in the best position as possible. And then finally, it kind of covers some best tips and tricks and some opportunities for you to report or some quality people that you can report any data breaches to, or if you think you may be compromised, how to get that resolved as quickly and as cheaply as possible. Because If you have data or information compromised, it could be a lengthy, costly process that I know none of you want to endorse. So we'll send this booklet around, and hopefully you can keep it handy and reference some of the things we discussed today.
Right, and I love it. I've already pulled since you sent it to me last week. I've already pulled some information out of here. We're going to use it for our family. So
Yep.
if you want a copy of this brochure, just email me. No strings attached. I'll send you a copy. You can resend it to anybody else that you want to. Again, family, old, especially some of your maybe older members of your family. So anything else that we can help you with, just let us know. Email us, call us, talk to my team, and if it takes a village sometimes, and that's what we're trying to do. So, with that, Tim, I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time to
Thank you, Chris. Yeah.
join today, share what you shared, and I hope everybody has a great rest of their day and stay safe.
Same
Thank
to
you.
you, everyone. Be well. Thank you, Chris. Be
Bye
well.
bye.